camp and restored horror.
Hey, Jay.
Hey, Joel. Brother.
That's Jay's first time seeing that.
I loved it. That was amazing. What a great
Good.
intro.
Good. Well, it's your voice and your thing.
Wow. I mean, that's why it's great. No.
All right. Well, I'll let you kick it. We haven't done a Horror Lagoon in a minute, so I'm going to let you kick this off.
Oh, okay. Well, heck yeah. At this point in the episode of Jay and the Dad's New Horror Movies, I'm joined by one of my favorite horror hosts in one of my favorite swamps, the Gillman, Joel Robertson.
Yes, we are here, Jay. And for anyone who's listening, we have a special treat if you're hearing this on Jay and the Dad's New Horror Movies. We have a video version now of Horror Lagoon kicking off. So we figured we'd try this. I'm using StreamYard software for other things I'm doing for Mom and Pop Video Shop and for Retro Movie Geek and for Char on the Tube. So I figured, hey, I think it'd be cool to record video with the Jayster. So
yes,
we're doing it. So now you get to see all the stupid face tics and things I have as we the facial twitches and whatnot as we record this, Jay.
I appreciate it. I like it a lot.
And I guess I don't want to speak for you because you may be like, no, I'm not linking to your stupid thing in the show notes. I will not sully the show notes of this podcast with a link to this. But if Jay is so inclined, if you go to the show notes, I'm assuming there'll be a link, or you can go to Mom and Pop Video Shop on the YouTubes and find it.
Absolutely. And it's a must watch, everybody. I love it. I'm such a fan.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Jay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, Jay, I think this is an important episode. This is one that the fans have been waiting for so. I love how I say fans, like, you know, the 1.5 fans that we have out there. I want the listeners. I like saying listeners better. It sounds far less full of ourselves. The listeners I've been waiting for sure. And that is, we are going to be discussing, and Jay, I'm doing this just for you. We are going to be discussing Jangel.
Ooh,
there it is.
Love it.
We are talking Jangel, the Beast from the East, and we might even dabble a bit into Jangel 2, The Beast Returns, because I did watch both, Jay. I watched both.
You did. Wow.
And I watched almost all of the 35 or whatever minutes of behind the scenes footage that was on the DVD. Because let me just say real quick. So I've got it. The menu is playing behind me. If anyone can, well, it's probably a little harder to see now, but earlier you probably could see it. I will hold this up to the camera, so if anyone who's listening can see it. I wanted to prove to you I wasn't lying. So I ordered this off a used copy for like $10 off eBay because I wanted to see it. My kids wanted to see it. We've gone down this rabbit trail of watching, let's just say, movies of questionable quality.
Yes.
And
yes.
So this, I got a copy used, sight unseen. It was not promoted in any way on eBay. That it's been autographed by Conrad Brooks, the writer-director of Jangel, all three of them. Because, by the way, you did know there's a third one, right?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah. Have you seen it?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Have you seen part 2?
Oh, yes. Yeah, and that is
amazing.
Worse.
That is
far
amazing.
Worse than the first one.
I wanted to get to part 2 because I actually have a personal connection to part 2, and I realized it halfway through.
Oh, wow.
Not just the fact that it takes place in Tampa, but because it took place in Tampa, there's a specific person in it who I'm actually have gotten to be friends with over the years.
Oh my goodness.
And in my opinion, and I'm not just saying this because he's my friend, hands down the best scene in the movie.
Of course.
Acting wise and all that. So I'm going to put this back up here so it doesn't fall. Okay. Next to the, I don't know if you saw the ice cream sandwich baby. There's an ice cream sandwich with baby body parts, doll parts sticking out of it that was made by Cat Fart. Art. She is an awesome human being. So go to cat_fart on Instagram. Sorry for hijacking your show, Jay, to promote other people, but she's an awesome independent artist. I'm all for promoting independent artists, which is why we're covering Jangel, the Beast from the East.
Which I gotta say, Gilman, really made me reflect on my life decisions more than ever. I do that often as a podcaster, but this morning when I got up at 6 a.m. on a Saturday to talk about Jangel, I'm like, Something
Something's broken inside, Jay.
That's right.
Something has officially broken.
But
well, we got our
broken.
little. Yeah, we're breaking it for sure. So we've got our little ticker at the bottom, so everybody knows what we're covering here.
Yes.
Okay. So Jane Gale, the Beast from the East. So I had heard plenty about this movie from you guys. It's been brought up several times on the show.
Yes.
It was, I believe there is a copy. I'm not going to throw Watson under the bus, but I believe I believe that it's currently in his possession. It has been for, I don't know, a long time.
He's been sitting on that thing like an egg, waiting to hatch.
Maybe he just watches it like every chance he gets and he just can't let it go.
It is inexplicable is what it is.
Sure. Or it's very explicable because he loves the movie and he just was, it could be. You don't know. You never know. So he has it, and supposedly we're going to be sending Jane Gale around to be autographed, is what you said, right? By all the various hosts of the show. Then we were sending it to someone.
John C. That's
right. John C. So John C. Eventually you will get your copy of Jane Gale. We hope, we pray, but we can neither confirm nor deny that Watson will ever let it go. That being said, I wanted to see it. Here's why. So my kids and I had been watching some riff tracks, which those that aren't familiar, high level, it's essentially the guys from MST3K, Mr. Science Theater 3000. They kind of did their own thing after that show. And it's hilarious. So we've done movies like Cool as Ice, the classic Vanilla Ice joint. Yes. That movie's amazing. Which also, when you realize it's got the same, and who's Spielberg's DP that he's used ever since Schindler's List? Is it Janusz Kaminski?
Yeah, I should know this.
Isn't it Janusz Kaminski or something like that? Isn't it like I weirdly remember like the one-offs he used, like Alan Davio for E.T. or Gene Kunde with Jurassic Park. I mean, I can remember those guys, but the one he's used for like every movie since 1993, which is why they all have a similar look and feel, in my opinion. But anyway, did you know Cool as Ice had that DP? That was the DP.
I didn't.
Which explains why it looks good. Now, of course, mind blown. Yeah. So anyway, I feel like now I have to actually look it up as we talk, but I'll keep talking so people aren't wasting.
Well, if I can ask you a question about
please do.
Because one thing I appreciate and respect about Gillman, just so the listeners know, is as we review new horror movies throughout the year, Gillman Joel says things like, well, I'm not just going to waste time with a bunch of crappy movies. I'm only going to watch the good ones that I'm interested in seeing, which makes perfect sense.
I feel like I know where this is going. Are you pointing out a hypocrisy, a contradiction?
Well, I wonder, in the meantime, you watch things like Jan Gale and the Vanilla Ice movie and everything.
Oh, no, it gets worse. It gets worse. It gets worse. I also watch, this is why I had to see Jan Gale. I watched Roller Gator.
Ooh.
Do you know what Roller Gator is?
Only from you, by reputation.
Just watch the Riff Tracks trailer. You'll get everything you need to know and then some. Believe me.
Okay.
It is tremendous. It stars Joe Estevez, Martin Sheen's brother. It is. I don't even know how to describe it. It's wow. It's just wow. And here's the thing. As somebody who's dabbled in independent film, I have. There's a party that always hesitates to be just like a snarky jerk and just be, sarcastic about it, because it's easy. It eats low-hanging fruit.
Right.
You're like, oh, that movie sucked. But I don't want to do that.
Right.
So I do try to always find the nugget. I always go like, okay, there's this DIY, group of people getting together. Let's put on a show kind of vibe. And as long as it's got that and it's entertaining on some level.
Right.
Cool.
Well, in all seriousness, though, I mean, have you seen The Velocipaster?
No, but I'm familiar with that. But I feel like, here's the thing. No matter what you come and throw at me, including Jane Gale, it's not going to be worse than Roller Gator.
No, absolutely. But that's actually what I was going to say is The Velocipaster, believe it or not. I don't like comedy horror, and it's really not a horror movie per se, but it's actually hilarious. So it's a little scandalous at times. So I don't know. You might want to preview it first before you watch.
It's heretical.
Yeah, it's for grown-ups. It's got some scenes in it. But anyways, I'd love to hear your thoughts about.
I would like to say I'm familiar with. I think I saw the trailer a long time ago. So here's the thing about it, though. To answer your question about my double standard / hypocrisy, is that we're all hypocrites.
Right.
We're all sinners, Jay. I don't know if you knew that, but we all
Absolutely.
are. But my big issue is it's a timing thing with my kids. Like, so first of all, my kids are all getting older now, so I can see more and more stuff with them that I used to not be able to. But like, there's certain movies that we cover that, other than maybe my oldest, and by and large, I mean, he likes horror, but he doesn't necessarily want to see a lot of. There's certain things he just freaks him out to the point where he's like, "No, dude, I don't even want to sit through that." Sure. But my youngest is still kind of like, so I kind of have to watch him when I can. And then I know if that then means I'm going to probably have to watch at times with my wife. She also likes horror, but she's far pickier than I am. Yeah. And so it's like, I know certain ones she's just going to, I mean, she's not going to be into. So I'm like, okay. So then it's do I watch it on my phone? That's why I feel like there's ones that we're covering on the show. Whereas what like a Jane Gale, I could totally watch with my kids and we just have a good time. That's the argument. That's
not hypocrisy at all. Then now that you've explained it, I've got nothing to pick on you about. So.
Well, because like for instance, there's a movie that someone on Facebook, a listener and a really cool guy contacted me about this movie called is it Sator? Sator? I'm sure you've seen it.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. And he suggested I see it, and he mentioned it a couple of times, and I feel horrible because it's on the queue, but it's again, I feel like it's probably one of those I need to watch by myself. Yeah. And so I've got to work it in. So I feel like anybody who ever makes suggestions to me, understand, I always put them like on I have like literally a list and a queue, but it's getting to them, that kind of thing. So that's why especially for this show with you, I feel like there's so many new movies that I want to cover the big ones, right? And the ones that I hear, especially, but I really want to cover like the big independent ones, like Talk to Me, which I know we're going to review here very soon. Stuff like that is way more fun to me than just the latest piece of corporate sludge. Although horror, thank God, we don't get as much corporate sludge these days. I mean, we do, but it's not as much as we used to. So
that's right. Absolutely. Yes.
I digress. So Jane Gale, the Beast
you would do well in court, by the way, defending yourself. You have.
Oh, would I?
Yeah, you have
I should. What is it? The defendant that has himself as a fool for the fool for a client, blah blah blah. If you defend yourself in a court of law, I don't want to do that, Jay. I don't want to. Okay. So, Jane Gale, the Beast from the East. Stop avoiding, Jay. We are going to talk about this movie. So here's the thing: I have seen Roller Gator. It took me 2 weeks to get through Roller Gator.
Wow. We
would watch it in 15 to 20 minute increments
because that's all you could stomach.
That's all I could do. And I would try to find the positives in it. And my positive takeaway from that was it was shot on VHS. So it's got that fun built into, VHS, whatever it was. It looks like VHS. Maybe it's not, but it looks like it. And it was shot on some sort of low-end, lo-fi video. And it looks it. And they're kind of like Jane Gale. And it's like there's an inherent nostalgia immediately built in. Plus, I think with Roller Gator, it takes place in 1995. So obviously the hairstyles, it's got like that stuff going for it. But that's all I could say. That's all I could say. Plus, it has this incessant guitar, like riff music that plays for the whole movie. Like it never stops.
Oh,
it
wow.
Just, beginning to end, doesn't matter what the scene is. I think I take it back. I think there's like one or two scenes where they do a slight tonal shift. But by and large, it's constant. It never ends. It never ends. To the point where you can't even make out some of the dialogue. And
so
I'm assuming
for the score, they had some dude just sit there and just jam on his guitar.
Yes.
you know that's how that came to be.
And I know it's awesome. My guess is it's that they were using the audio off the camera mic. So I think they did that to hide. That's my guess, to hide the tonal shifts and everything, which Jane Gale has quite a few of those as well. So here's the thing with Jane Gale. I actually found it entertaining for what it is. Because, see, I went in with the expectations that this is going to be one of the worst movies I've seen. And so as a result, the expectation was so down to the floor low that when I finally saw it, there's no way. You can't put lipstick on a pig, as they say, right? You can't say that this is some high art, and I don't think it was intended to be. But there's a part of me that wants to believe, and I wish Conrad Brooks was still alive, R.I.P. Mr. Brooks, because I would love to ask him, what's the level of self-awareness in this? Like, is this I worked with Ed Wood, because anybody who doesn't know, Conrad Brooks, who made Jane Gale, actually was in Plan 9 from Outer Space, which is oftentimes listed as the worst movie ever made. I think that's BS. I'm sorry, it's not. It's not great. It's a bad movie, but it's like a fun bad movie.
It's far from the worst movie ever made.
Way far. So that being said, I always feel like, did he just say, you know what? I've got this cachet in a weird way, this cult cachet of being connected to Ed Wood that I should milk it. I should use it. And I don't necessarily mean he did it cynically, but maybe he did. But it was just like, I could make these movies. I could do them as cheaply and as fast as I possibly can with the attitude, like, who cares? Like, I could just obviously always default to, I am totally doing all these movies as homage to my mentor, Ed Wood.
Yes. Which if somebody is intentionally doing that, then that it's just like you having a great excuse for your hypocrisy. It's not as fun to make fun of them if you know that they were in on the joke and they did it on purpose.
Well, here's the thing. Here's where I am maybe going to be a little bit of a hypocrite, Jay.
Okay.
I would argue, I will push back on that slightly to say,
tell it.
This is why, though, I don't like, or I should say I find them mildly entertaining, but I don't love a lot of the modern day, or at least that last like 10, 15 years of all those bad on purpose asylum type movies. I'm about to go see Meg 2. So I get like that idea. Like it's goofy and over the top on purpose.
Yeah.
And I can enjoy it going into it knowing, but I will say this. There is a different vibe that I get watching The Room, the Tommy Wiseau movie.
Yes.
Or the original Troll 2. Like, the original, there's only one. Troll 2. Movies like that where the people who made it were borderline delusional.
Yes.
It's like watching American Idol back in the day, and people would get there and audition and be awful. Like anybody who you could be tone deaf yourself, but you could tell they're awful. And yet they don't get it. They don't hear it. They don't see it. And I, on some weird level, find that fascinating. I think that is so interesting how we delude ourselves and like that idea of like believing yourself. Like here's my theory. Because after watching Jane Gell, part of me wants, that's why I said I wish he was here to ask the question. Maybe people who knew him could behind the scenes say, yeah, he totally was in on it.
Yeah.
But even if he was, I don't get that. Like, I still feel like there's some level where he was taking himself and what he was doing serious. And it's that sincerity that for me is missing in so much of modern cinema in general.
Agreed. Yeah.
There's a fakeness to everything.
Brother, that is the Ed Wood phenomenon, right? Because like Ed Wood was earnest as a filmmaker.
Yes, and that's what's missing. Yeah.
And I agree with you 100%. And yeah, that's exactly what I was saying too, is that when they're trying to do it poorly on purpose, they're trying to be funny or horrible, it just doesn't carry the same weight.
And I don't think that's the thing about Conrad Brooks. And so maybe he's like the ultimate Machiavellian. I realize I'm giving way too much credit here, but I feel like, what if he knew full well how he would be viewed? Like he was so, like, in that Tarantino way, right? You know what your persona is and like how people view you and the expectation. Yeah. And so you live up to it. But the only way you can live up to it is you have to consciously delude yourself into believing you're making something great, and you're intentionally, it's like weirdly like acting within acting. Like you have to, it's always like when an actor has to be a bad actor in a good movie and how hard that is to do, right? Because you're acting a part, but you have to do it badly so that the people watching the movie perceive your character as somebody who's and that's like a layer within a layer. It's complicated. And I realize there is no way in hell that's what Jane Gell is. I get it. But there's a party that kind of wants to believe, because I watched some of the behind the scene footage with him and he knew he was being filmed. Like he even said, oh, we're doing a documentary here. And the way he came across, like he's like this, I'm guessing at that point, he must've been in his 50s or at least his 60s. Actually, he had to be in his probably his early 60s. Oh, and by the way, he's in Roller Gator too. I can't believe I forgot that. He's got a part in Roller Gator. Conrad Brooks does. Nice. And so he's like got his shirt open. So his belly's, but it's like just two buttons in the middle. So it's like open at the chest and open at the belly. Yeah. And it's like, and he's just like, doesn't care. It's kind of like his Jane Gell character, like just does not care. Like, oh, by the way, this guy, the guy who played Jane Gell, my hero, like to wear that outfit and like his belly is its own character in the movie.
For sure. And he's a caveman, so he can get away with that.
He can totally get away with it. He can totally get with it. But so Conrad Brooks is walking around with like, I don't know if it's a beer or it's kind of hard to tell because that also was shot like on JV or VHS-C or something, the behind the scenes footage. And he's got a drink. Like all he's missing is the stogie. And he's like, he's directing, but the way he's directing is like unlike any director you've ever seen. It's like just telling just make your eyes bigger and come at the camera. And then the cameraman has got the camera on like a monopod, which is now totally explains why throughout the movie, it's like got this weird, like there's no stability to almost any shot. And it's not one of those intentional, we're trying to be like in NYPD Blue hand cam things, right? It's just straight up a monopod. Like you couldn't even get a tripod.
Yes.
It's amazing. Like I find that fascinating. I am fascinated because like this whole movie is shot, and Beast 2 is like Jane Gale 2, The Beast Returns.
Whoa.
Dude, like, okay, so this movie is in my mind, it's obviously not a good movie, but it's entertaining for what it is. Like if you go in knowing it is not a good movie at all, it makes virtually no sense. It's just a lot of like weird moments of characters that are in the scene together, but he obviously couldn't get the actors at the same time. So he would go get the guy weirdly composed. So like, here's those of you that are seeing the video, this is like a typically composed shot. Where's Jane Gale? The beast is coming. And then cut to the other guy. Like, or oftentimes it's supposed to like following the basics of like the 180-degree rule. So it looks like they're facing it. And like the other guys, I don't know. Where is he? It is, and it's almost like he also told his actors, here's the thing. We don't have a script.
Yeah.
But you have your mind and you're a creative person. So we're going to give you the idea that this monster's on the loose. Your character's a detective or whatever. Just riff. And we'll fix it in post.
Yeah. A lot of weight was put on the editor for this. But here's the thing. I think what makes this movie difficult for me to watch in terms of enjoyment level is so many of the locations, like especially, that were inside. It's just like somebody's
wood paneling.
Bedroom. It's third bedroom in a trailer. It's like well, we're near Margie's trailer. Let's just go over there and film this shot.
Yes,
and it's just so much.
And the best part about that, Jay, I wish I could ask him. Honestly, one of my life's regrets would be that I cannot sit down with Conrad Brooks over coffee and just pick his brain. It's because I want to figure out, like psychologically, the choices that were made. Yeah. So why? I'm not saying Conrad Brooks is Mel Gibson or Tom Cruise or Denzel Washington, okay? I'm not saying he's any of those people, but I am saying he could walk into probably a lot of places, decent locations, and say, hey, you may not know me. My name is Conrad Brooks. Have you ever heard of Plan 9 from Outer Space? Because even people who know nothing about me, like, oh yeah, I've heard of that movie. Right? They made a movie with Johnny Depp called Ed Wood. It was all about that. I was in that movie. What? Oh, yeah. So, hey, we're shooting this little no-budget movie, kind of like an Ed Wood movie, right? And we just want to use your location. We just want to, we'll be in and out. Take us like 2 hours. We're in and out. That's all he had to do. That's it. And I guarantee you, he would have gotten some like rooms and spaces that felt like, I don't know, a police station and not a kitchenette table in the back of a double wide.
I know. And he could have shot at a roller rink.
Anything.
Anything.
There is a moment, I think it's in the first movie. They do some scenes in the first movie involving a graveyard, which I love. The two guys, actually, they were some of the best performance in that first movie, the grave diggers, which, by the way, notice that's the other thing, right? They didn't even bother showing the shovels going in because they obviously really couldn't dig up the grave because they were in a real cemetery.
Right.
But they pretending that they're just finishing up, And look, I get it. It's a no budget movie. It's hard to make all that work. Sure. Could you even in because this one came out in 99, right? There were Halloween decorations around then. You could have probably that Halloween or Halloween before or found some people who had like fake styrofoam gravestones and set them up a la Ed Wood, right? And made it look like an actual grave. You could have done that. Yeah. But no. They don't do that. So there is like a few locations that aren't weirdly in some rando bedroom or the like dining room table in a double wide. Yeah. But then they I think it's towards the end of the movie. I'm conflating the two movies together. I wonder if I am. Because I think there's a scene where they're at like it's almost like a very it's a train. It's like a train yard. Isn't that where it looks like? I think there is like a train, and that's where Conrad Brooks shows up on a train. So they did do that. And then there is a scene like towards the end where it's like a rundown industrial looking area. And I thought visual, like, and it's so jarringly, it's like, it's probably in a normal movie would have been almost like you wouldn't even pay attention to it. But because in this movie, it's so jarring to actually have a location.
You're like production values, location.
Wow, amazing. And yeah, so honestly, that's what it's for me. A movie like this, it brings up so many questions. Because I do not fancy myself a Scorsese or a Coppola or a Spielberg. I don't fancy myself a Lustig. I don't fancy myself. Honest to God, I don't fancy myself an Ed Wood. Because I even believe Ed Wood, but I believe even Ed Wood. Like if you go back again and look at his movies, he had no money. So I feel like if Ed Wood had some, even just a little bit more money,
right,
he would have probably had more production. Like he tried to have locations and scenes that at least gave it wasn't a good illusion, but he tried. It's like the kid who does the magic trick badly, but at least he's trying to do it. You go, yeah, I saw where you put the quarter, kid. Okay. But he tried. This is almost like he showed up to do magic and just didn't even have the quarter. like or the cards or the top hat. And he's like, magic. Yeah,
it's magic. Well, wait. So I gotta know, Gilman, before you gotta tell me. Okay, analyze. I love this deep diving you're doing. Analyze the pinnacle scene of this movie because that's the one everybody talks about. There's some serious stunt work and animal wrangling.
Yes, of the snake wrestling scene. Now I'm gonna get a little heady. I'm gonna get a little heady on you here, Jay.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm gonna make the argument that Conrad Brooks was actually using that scene as a metaphor for a man struggling with his own inferior sense of his sexuality.
Wow.
That he wishes he had a giant snake. I'm just kidding. It's a stupid rubber snake and he's fighting it. And it's that scene I had actually seen because weirdly you would assume this movie would be all over YouTube, right? And it's like, it's actually not. There's only a few like scenes. I think the rubber snake scene and Jane Gell like going through, which by the way, my kids thought was hilarious because most of the attacks happen off camera, but and I want to make sure hold on his name. I have
Dale.
Yeah, it's Dale
Kluge.
Kluge, yes, Dale Kluge as Jane Gell. He does this like groaning thing where it's kind of sounds like animal sex. Like it's like this.
Yes.
And I mean, my kids thought it was hilarious. The three teenage boys watching this movie like, right. And it's so he does stuff like that, but. Yeah, it's the problem with a lot of stuff within this movie. Like you made a comment about the editor. I'm fairly confident there's a part of it that thinks, was there one or was this like edited in camera? Because like that scene goes on way too long. And I realize that seems like an obvious thing to say for a movie like this, but it's see, this is the key. It does cut eventually, whereas something like Roller Gator had like multiple scenes like that weren't nearly as interesting that go on longer. That's what made that movie painful to me. Ooh. This movie, at least, I mean, but again, I knew that going into it about that scene. And by and large, though, it's so kind of ridiculous and over the top. So on to Jane Gell 2 real quick.
Yes.
The best part about Jane Gell 2, and I knew I was like, oh my God, this is amazing, is at the very beginning, you have like the gypsy fortune teller trope, right?
Yeah.
And I'm still not 100% sure if these are supposed to be her sons that show up or just her accomplices, you know, in their criminal enterprise, you know, because God knows that's not a stereotype. That's played itself out. But they end up, apparently, Jane Gell is like imprisoned by them. Like they have him, right? And they're using him in their crimes. I'm guessing Dale wanted. Again, I'd love to know the story. Why wasn't he in part 2
at all?
Was it just he wasn't available? Was it that he just didn't? He saw the first one and went, "Oh, for the love of God, I need to go into witness protection and change my name."
Yes.
I don't know what it is, but it's something. So so as a result, they have this moment where they're supposed to, and it's a common thread throughout both of these movies where Conrad Brooks didn't have somebody, and I got to give the guy credit because at least he tried, right? Where he did, it's kind of like Ed Wood, Bela Lugosi dies, and instead of just having a different actor totally play the vampire character, he wants to use the footage he has of Bella, so he hires the dentist to just do this in the entire movie, you know. So he does some variation of that. Yes. And he also does the thing where actors, as I've already said from the first movie, are not in the same scene together. I mean, they're in the same scene, but they're not obviously being shot at the same time.
Right.
But they're reacting to each other. Yeah. And so there's a scene where they're like obviously looking at Jane Gell. We're seeing them on the screen. We're not seeing their point of view yet. And you can hear the kind of noises in the background on the camera mic, by the way. This wasn't even, you never, by the way, all the behind the scenes, you never see a boom operator. You never see a separate recording track at all for audio. It's not even jacked into the camera. Nope. It is, he's using the mic on the camera.
Yep.
So
that's it.
Yeah, it's amazing. So they cut to a shot of Jane Gell. Do you remember what that shot is?
Yes, yeah. Dr. Shock talks about this all the time.
It's amazing. Say what it is, Jay. It's so amazing. You should say it.
It's like a cardboard cutout stand-up version, right? I mean, that's what it is.
I actually think it may be more than that. I think it's or less than that, rather. I'm going to go back and rewatch it. Not the whole movie, just that part. I think it's a production still from a 35 millimeter camera that they got processed.
Yes.
Of Jane Gell, the actor Dale going
the attack.
Yes. And they held it up into the frame so that it filled the frame, and they added his groans, and that is Jane Gell.
That's right.
It's a still image of Jane Gell that they didn't, and by the way, they didn't even scan it in, or because this is I think this is the second one. So this is 2001. I mean, I was making movies in that time frame too. There was ways to incorporate something like that more effectively if you're going to do that. Right. And they didn't even bother. They literally, it's almost like, I imagine if the camera had been a little closer, you would have seen, or a little further back, you would have seen fingertips holding the picture. Oh my God, dude, it's amazing.
Yes, it is.
And so, and then later on, it's like this whole subplot of they're going to do like the Stepfather 3 thing where they're going to do plastic surgery or something on Jane Gell.
Yeah.
And my kids are like, are they really doing this just so they can have a different actor play him?
Yeah.
I'm thinking, yes. But the best part is they never really reveal the guy because he's got bandages on his face the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, it's like if you're doing a sequel to a movie and you can't get that same actor, it's like, okay, because Jane Gell was this caveman was discovered because he was thawed from the ice, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that what it was?
That's the argument, yes.
So why don't you just thaw another family member of Jane Gell for the second one?
You could have.
Just
you could
any
have.
other actor.
And if you're going to go this ridiculous mad scientist plastic surgeon route that has the talking brain that pulsates and all that, if you're going to do that, why not have that be like the opening? Yeah. Like, why not open with that?
Right.
They've got Jane Gell. He survived the last movie. He's already on the table. Your opening credits. That's what they did Stepfather 3, basically. Spoiler alert. Right? Because they didn't get Terry O'Quinn back. So they needed to do something. And I mean, I'm of the opinion audiences are willing to watch these movies. I think by and large, most people, you could just cast a different actor that's somewhat similar, and most people will just go with it. Like, you don't need to always feel the need to explain, why is it a different actor?
Yeah.
It's just the same character being played by a different person. Not a big deal. Let's move on with life. Like, I don't understand why they always do this, but whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, we all accepted James Bond has been played by 5 or 6 or whatever different people. Yet, some reason, they don't open every new James Bond actor series going, well, we got to give it plastic surgery, Bob.
Exactly.
It's ridiculous. Anyway, so Jane Gell 2 is by far, it makes Jane Gell 1 legitimately, and I'm not even saying this to be a smart aleck.
Yeah.
It makes Jane Gell 1, when you think about Troll 2, which is a so bad, it's good movie. Obviously, everyone's seen that. But then when you go back and watch Troll 1, which is obviously, it's a very low budget kind of, but it's a much more, it's more professional, I guess is the best way to put it. It's still like a low budget, full, Empire Pictures kind of movie, but it's just, it's got more, and that is, and Jane Gell 2 is even way more removed from Django 1 in that regard.
Oh,
because it's almost shocking that it's the same people making it, because you think that all the stuff they could have learned from the first movie, what not to do and what to do, would have been applied, but it's almost like they go in deeper.
Here's what it reminds me of, like, just to give people a sense of it, because we've had co-hosts who haven't even been able to get through the second one. Like,
those wusses.
Like Macula, he turned it off.
But he's such a child.
but here's what it's like, and I'm serious. It's like, okay, we watched Conrad Brooks Django, and we're like, that's funny. And then, just us high school kids, one afternoon, zero preparation, we're like, let's make a sequel to that. And then we made a sequel. That's what it's like.
That's what Django 2. That's a perfect, except it wasn't when you were in high school. It was when you were in middle school.
Middle school, yes.
I taught video productions in middle school, and I can tell you it was on par easily. And I would maybe make the argument some of the things those kids made was more, because and this would have been not that far a difference in time frame. Yeah. So it's not like this was made in like 1986 and they were having, they're editing VCR to VCR and none of that.
Right.
So now here's the thing I want to say, and I was like, oh my, because I hadn't looked up anything on Django 2. We just kind of went right into it. We watched Django 1 like the next day or 2 days later. We said, let's watch Django 2 because I want to make sure I cover both with Jay. We're watching. I didn't look up anything on it. And all of a sudden, my boy, Joel D. Winecoop, who I've interviewed on my show several times, nice. He calls himself King of the B movies. He's been in a crowd, and I knew he had done stuff with Conrad Brooks before, but I just didn't realize. So he's got a scene in this. There's a scene where they go and talk to a detective. He's a detective, and he's sitting at a desk. And I will say, again, it's also one of the few scenes where you get a sense like, okay, maybe this is an actual, like you could at least suspend disbelief enough to buy that he is in his office because he's at a desk and it's like kind of messy and it looks, and here's the thing about Winecoop, he acts the part of whatever he's in, and he's very good at kind of going over the top and giving it lots of energy, and that works really well in a movie like this. It really does. And it's like, even my kids, like after his scene, they were like, well, that was the best part of the movie by far. Like, because it's like it so stands. It's like when you see a really good actor in something that the material isn't remotely like something that even though he does lots of B grade and Z grade movies, it's like he brings something to it that almost makes everybody else stand out. Because like what it is, he's obviously somebody in it who has acted before. Yeah. Everybody else in the movie, though, by and large, it's like people that he pulled in off the street, which can work. There are movies made where they use non-actors on purpose to create that verisimilitude right there. There could be a real honesty in a performance, but that requires a director who works with them to make them comfortable on camera. I almost got the sense like he pulled these people in, threw a camera in front of them, and literally moments before hitting record, they found out they were doing a movie. And he's like, so there's a monster on the loose, and you're concerned about your friend's safety, and you're being interviewed by the news.
Yeah.
Action.
Go. That's right. And that's how you get things like, oh, they're dead. They're all messed up.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Yeah. But I gotta be honest with you. They were dead. They're all messed up. I love because that feels like what some old school sheriff, guy in the old film or video, news footage in Night of the Living Dead would say. Yes. It makes sense. Like in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the opening with all those, they use a bunch of extras. That's one of the things I love, especially in 70s and 60s, like independent cinema of that year, even into the 80s, where they would use extras. Southern Comfort, the Walter Hill film, if you've ever seen that, they go to the bayou. And there's a scene where they obviously were using extras. And I jokingly told some people after I saw that movie, because my dad's mom was from that exact area of Louisiana. And like, there's a look that those people have that have pictures of her family I've seen. I'm like, holy crap. I may be related to some of those people. Yeah. Like, it was like, These are like backwoods bayou folks, but it's real. It feels real, and it's not like they're there to be denigrated or insulted or disrespected.
Right.
But there's just this honesty to Graveyard Shift when we covered that on the show.
Yes.
Not so long ago. There's a scene where they're having a kerfuffle in the parking lot.
Mhm.
And the actors are obviously the actors, and they have like all the extras, which were obviously just people from the town.
Yeah.
Standing around, and it's obvious, right? It's obvious on some level, but to me, I like that it adds this interesting level of reality because they're not acting; they're just standing there, just being themselves. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yes. Well, I agree 100%. Yes.
Yeah. So Jane Gale and Jane Gale 2. I have not seen Jane Gale 3. My kids did demand that I order it. They want to see Jane Gale 3. They actually want to see it because they're just amazed. Plus, they like doing their own film projects, and I imagine this is like gives them like hope of like, well, I can do that.
You're creating monsters. Joel. Great.
Much like the doctor in Jane Gale 2, The Beast Returns.
Absolutely.
Or the professor, or the doctor, or the professor. Oh, best part ever. They go through the graveyard to get to his mansion at the edge of the cemetery, and it's a freaking tool shed. It's a tool. Like, okay, if you're going to say you're going to his mansion at the end of the graveyard, and you were already willing to show a still shot of Jane Gale, who was supposed to be a living creature, thus moving around, how hard would it have been to get some old footage, to get some image of a fake Gothic looking mansion, and try to create this like faux matte painting type vibe? It wouldn't have looked good,
right?
But at least it would have made sense.
Yeah, you get the sense that this wasn't very well thought out. Like it's like there was no storyboarding or pre-production planning. There's just nothing.
Which honestly, that's a choice. Like some filmmakers do that and they come up with something interesting. But it's like it was almost more like they didn't even know they were making a movie that day.
Yeah.
And someone had a camera in the back of their car. And they're like, well, we got to get some footage because if we don't, there's going to be hell to pay. So let's get it. Let's make it happen.
Yeah.
And it's honestly amazing. So like, I can't really even rate this movie if I'm being honest with you. I don't, because obviously if you're rating it as a movie, it's like a 2, right? I mean, it's not, or a 1 if you really.
Well, which one? Because
I would say as a movie for most people, it's going to be, I'll say a 1.5.
The first Jane Gale or the Beast Return?
I would say the first Jane Gale for most people will be a 2.5 and part 2 would be a 1.5.
Yeah. See, for me, Jane Gale is a 2.
Okay.
And then the Beast Returns is a 0.5 because I don't do zeros.
Okay. I would say that's how most people would feel about it.
Yeah.
I honestly can't. I find it like if I'm rating it on my entertainment value, watching it with my kids, and just being I'm fascinated and like the questions it created in my mind. For me, it's like the first one's like a 6 and the second one's like a 5.
Wow.
Because they're not like this is the thing about me, right? It's like it's not that I understand. Like this is some like weird diluted. I'm going to argue these are quality cinema. No.
Well, wait. Okay, Joel.
Entertainment value. Entertainment.
I guess I got to apologize to you now because
you gave me credit as having a brain.
Well, the fact that you said Jane Gale, The Beast Returns, would be a 5, then your Skinamarink 9 rating is not
makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, not so egregious to me now if I understand it on that.
I think that's what it is. You have to get that my rating system. I always have like I get how some people like to me. I think Skinamarink for most people would be a 2 or a 3, or in some people, present company's case, a 1. And I understand why.
Yeah.
For me, bringing all of the baggage and stuff from my brain into it, and the experience I had, it was a 9. But I could totally get 100%. Like there's no judgment on my part of like, what's wrong with you? How can you not see? I don't even do that when it's a great movie, in my opinion. Like somebody tells me they think Jaws is a 4. I'm like, okay, I don't get it, but okay. But you know what I mean? That's their opinion. It's so totally subjective. But there are certain things, that are by the metrics of what good filmmaking is on any level. Like I think you could make the argument Skinamarink for you is a 1 when it comes to a story, right? Because there really isn't one.
Yeah.
I would argue as an exercise in experimental art filmmaking with like trying to intentionally create an aesthetic. It was very capable and done the way it was meant to be done.
Yeah.
So I think from that perspective, which is where I was coming at it from, it's different than this movie, which is they made a movie technically, but none of it was intentional, right? None of it was like no one. That's I guess the thing. Back to our earlier part of our conversation, none of this movie was like this well thought out. Like, okay, we're intentional. Like if I got a VHS camera and I wanted to go out and make a movie like this, and I knew what I was doing, like I knew. So here's the key: we got to use the microphone on the camera. Right, we got to do that because that's the only way it's going to feel real. We've got to make sure that when we do a cut, it creates that red rolling line every once in a while that you would get, right? Those little touches, but that's intentional. Like I'm doing it on purpose.
Right.
That's different than what I believe this movie and definitely part 2 was, which was not on purpose. Now, I actually probably next time I talk to Joel, I'm going to ask him. I'm going to be like, did you get the sense with Conrad? Like, did he know what he was doing? Like, did he know what he was making? Or did he just not care?
Yeah.
And honestly, there's part of me that respects that if he didn't.
Because for the listeners, I'm sure you're aware that recently on Mom and Pop Video Shop, you've interviewed Joel. So
yes. Yeah.
So I'm excited for you to talk to him again so you could follow up about this.
Yeah. I really want to ask him because obviously he knew him. So
yeah.
And Jane Gale too does have it does take place in Tampa. Technically, I don't know how much they actually shot. My favorite thing in that movie, besides the still image, was when they just cut to a sign that's like obviously outside of a public park.
Yeah.
That says something like, like no, something like picnic area, no public intoxication. It says like all these rules at a park, like burned into a wooden sign. Like we've got those around here. And he's voicing it over. He literally reads the sign to you that you can read yourself and then says, Tampa, Florida.
Yeah.
It's like you could have just gotten a shot of the welcome to Tampa sign.
Yeah.
Like
or any
number.
Any
number of landmarks that would indicate Tampa. Like shots of Ybor City. Like it's a very very recognized area. Like the sky, even though Skyway Bridge is technically not just like it's in that area though. It's like that was in the Punisher movie that was with Travolta and Thomas Jane. Like there are certain things that are recognizable.
Yeah,
it's fascinating. I'm endlessly fascinated to know. So
it is.
Anyway,
and yeah, for people who do purchase this, I mean, when you get the Jane Gale, because I bought it. I had gotten rid of my old version, but we talk about it so often, Joel, that I actually purchased it again, several months ago as well. Yeah. And it comes with both movies 1 and 2 in that DVD.
And extras. It's got trailers, which I haven't watched those yet. And it has I literally own the movie. That's the other thing we didn't mention. Django 1 is like 50-something minutes long. Django 2 is just over an hour. They're very short. I mean, God bless them for that one. Yeah. And they're very short. And the extras and when I say it's literally unedited, like home movie level footage, to the point where the camera is like on the ground at points.
Yeah.
And then comes up of them like just shooting different scenes from the movie. Mm-hmm. And it's like 35 minutes or 34 minutes by itself. It's more than half as long as the movie. It's fascinating. It's just amazing to me. I don't know what else to say.
I know. It's a remarkable thing. And like one of my favorite all-time memories of podcasting was, one evening, Dr. Shock and I were recording horror movie podcasts. It was just the two of us that night. And we just fell into this rabbit hole. I saw that cover. We went on Amazon and we just ordered it right there on
sight
the recording. Yeah, and it was just, ever since that. So maybe, I mean, I'm not having any delusions of grandeur, but if this film has had any sort of, I guess, resurgence, maybe it's because our little community of podcasters talks about it so much.
Yeah. And so before I realized Conrad Brooks had passed, I had this whole train of thought with my kids. I was like, so here's this thing I'm thinking. What if I could reach out to Conrad Brooks and I could option the rights to Jane Gale and do a reboot and do like a reboot / requel or some obnoxious thing that everybody does now.
Wow.
And actually though, try to like shoot it, and it was still obviously would not be. It would be very no budget, but actually try though to make it like good, like legitimately, like when someone dies, seeing like I don't know, just a tiny bit of blood.
Yeah.
Or seeing the actual death,
right.
Or using locations that aren't in a trailer somewhere, unless the scene calls for it, in which case then you would do that.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. And then actually maybe shooting it like even because let's be honest, like today, like an iPhone 14 with a couple of you could get like anamorphic lens mounts and the Beast grip holder, like it's a basic microphones, and already the production value is shot up exponentially.
Wow.
Higher.
Yes.
But alas, he has passed, and I don't know if the Conrad Brooks estate. Although if you're hearing me, I am interested in optioning Jane Gill from the East.
That would be incredible to have a reboot of that thing.
Because why not? Why not? Like no one's going to be mad about it. Who's going to be mad? No one's going to. I'm not going to have. What like troll group is going to come at me? Well, really, dude. Like who asked for this, man? Nobody. That's the point.
Yeah.
Nobody asked for. They don't want to ask for the original. No one asked for this one.
And in fact, it would feel like a sort of atonement and appeasing in the world, like a righting of a wrong in the world. I think
that they've actually tried to do this with movies we really love, and like this is what happens. This is where this road leads us, people.
Yes. Yeah, and I'm just saying because I believe in you, and I do think
Thank you.
I do think that your reboot of Jan Gell would come off better, and so I think that would also kind of.
And my one promise to you, Jay, promise to you is I would pull like a Halloween 2018. In that Halloween 2018, right, is a requel to the first one, which is very bloodless by and large. And they would the one thing, whatever you feel about that movie, I personally like it. But if you hate that movie, whatever, you got to admit. They went for it with the gore. Christopher Nelson's work in that movie is phenomenal. And that would be my thing. I would want to go splattery with it.
Yes.
I wouldn't, you know what I mean? Like he'd grab that snake and he would rip a chunk out of it and there'd be like blood spewing down his chin.
Yes.
I would go full gore fest with Jane Gell.
Do it. Yeah. What do the listeners have to do to get you?
We'll do an Indiegogo. I say we do an Indiegogo. Would you?
Yes.
There's a part of me that weirdly wants to do this now, Jay. I don't know.
I'm serious.
I'll just sit on this one.
Okay, well,
this one is Shakma. Shakma will be that'll be if we actually this worked. Then we do the reboot, a requel of Shakma.
And then we could let's see. But with Shakma, I would be too afraid to work with a baboon.
And that's the only way I do it because there's no way I'd want a CGI baboon.
We could dress up, but we could dress up one of our buddies, one of our co-hosts.
We could do like
our kids even.
Well, the Killer Shrews. Remember the Killer Shrews? They took Dobermans and we could do something like that.
Yes, I love this.
That would be kind of hilarious. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, well, so I guess that wraps up this Horror Lagoon.
Yeah.
Gillman Joel's Horror Lagoon. Dredging the swamp for cult, camp, and restored horror.